Welcome to the Two Beasts podcast, where best friends Chris and Ollie try and figure out this complicated thing we call life.
On this special episode of the Two Beasts podcast, we're super excited to introduce you to Ian Harrop. Ian is a Jiu-Jitsu black belt and senior instructor at Checkmat Plymouth. He's here today to share with us his stories of fighting in high-stakes Jiu-Jitsu competitions, changing the lives of broken men and women through learning the art of combat, and gives us actionable life lessons we can take from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu so that you can apply them to your day-to-day life. We hope you enjoy. Let's get into it.
We're live.
Here we go.
Look at that. We're back at the Two Beasts podcast. This doesn't look like the normal scenario, does it?
This does not look like our front room.
Yes, welcome
This
back.
is very different.
Welcome back to the Two Beasts podcast. We are here today with Ian. Hello, sir. Thank you very much for having us here.
Yeah, man, most appreciated.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Most appreciated.
we've gone on tour a bit, so hopefully you appreciate that. And we're going to talk today about Jiu-Jitsu. We're going to talk about, your experience in Jiu-Jitsu, maybe some of the stories that you've seen of how it's helped people, but also more about what it teaches us in terms of personal development, because that's what we're all about. We're trying to become better. I realised that with us being called the Two Beasts, it makes it sound like we're already beasts.
We made it.
But we are well aware that we have not.
Yeah.
We're on the
That's
journey.
super cool.
And we're going to see what we can learn out of Jiu-Jitsu and see what people can learn out of Jiu-Jitsu. So why don't you start by giving yourself just an introduction, who you are, what you do, and how you got into this beautiful game.
Well, name's Ian Harrop. Basically, I've been training, I think it's roughly around about 14, 15 years. I started in around about 2008. I can't do the maths, so don't ask that.
Somewhere around
but I started off quite slow, if you know what I mean, like 2 sessions a week kind of thing. And then, and then it just escalated. You know, I was before that though, I was doing like amateur boxing. I was no good at that. And like my first fight, I just got battered, like so bad. I ended up losing my eyesight for like an hour to 2 hours almost.
Oh my Lord.
And so that put me off boxing pretty much, you know what I mean? I was having a pint with the guy that beat me up. And I don't know if you ever had concussion that bad before, but it was just like a spot in my corner of my vision where I was like looking, having a chat with the guy. He's like, anything in front of me was just black.
Yeah.
So like I always wanted to do jiu-jitsu, if you know what I mean. But like back then there was no clubs around to my knowledge anyway. And even like, so that must have been around about 2007. And then 2008, I met Tom Barlow, who had a gym in Plymouth. And then I went there for a training session. And no, tell a lie, actually. No, take that back. No, it was before that. I went to a seminar with a friend of mine. And it was out in Torquay. And it was with Darren Yeoman. And then it was like that was in 2007. And then a year later, because it was too far for me to travel, that was with Pedro Bessa. It was like, funny enough, I got my blue belt from Pedro and one of his affiliates, Mark Tucker. And later on in the years, if you know what I mean. But that was my first introduction to Jiu-Jitsu. And I got absolutely beat up in that. And I loved it so much. But then, like I said, I couldn't find any local. So I kind of went on the back burner for a bit, and then work in life, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
You know? And then started that way, basically.
What was it like when you got humbled in the boxing match? It was a boxing match, you nearly lost your eyesight, right? What was that like? Did you think, was it kind of a shock to your system that you got beat up that bad? And what was that kind of like?
Nah, it wasn't, man, to be honest with you. I was always in, I wouldn't say always in trouble, you know what I mean? But there was always a thing where we were always fighting as a young lad, you know what I mean? With my friends and stuff like that, we'd always scrap stuff. And you win, you lose. You know what I mean? You win and you lose. As simple as that. But with the boxing match, it was kind of interesting, really, because you all get weighed in, and it was in Portsmouth, and it was in the football club there, football stadium, and you all get weighed in this room, and everyone's eyeing everyone up. You know what I mean? Like checking everyone out. And I believe the guy that was going to be fighting left, so they panicked and they put someone else in that was already there, like a local, and he was like, it was a funny story. Like he come out and he had a cape on, and he had like number 1. And I looked at my boxing coach. I was like, "Where's my cape, bro?" Like, you know what I mean? I literally had the gloves, and it's quite funny because in amateur you have the headgear and you have the gloves.
Yeah.
And because I was like, I must have been around about 82 kilos then. So like it starts off with the lighter, male and female, and then works all the way through. So by the time you've got to the gloves, the padding's all thin, like completely and utterly like smashing.
Oh, so you were using the same stuff?
Same gear, same everything.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like, it's gotta be their like amateur boxing like regulation.
Yeah.
I forget the organization to be truthful with you, but like, so yeah, it was an experience.
Was it like a tournament style thing?
No. It was just you had your fight. And
That was it.
You're done.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so it was interesting, man. And I got in there, and the guy was just far superior.
Right.
Far superior. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, beat the crap out of me.
Yeah.
It was more like I don't know if you've ever been beat like that, but it's more of a suffocation.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, like you're drowning.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like jiu-jitsu, you know, like when you try jiu-jitsu for the first time, it's like you suffocate.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like claustrophobia.
Claustrophobia was the word I was going to use.
Yeah, you get a lot of that there in all aspects, like male, female, ultra heavyweights. You know, like guys, like girls. You know what I mean? They all have that like. I think it's kind of like a natural human instinct, though, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
you can't
totally.
breathe, panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just any kind of overwhelmingness, isn't it? You're being overwhelmed by a force that is taking your life. Like, for obviously, when you're in a regulation, you're not going to die, hopefully, unless it's like serious accident.
Yeah.
But that is technically for that period of time what is happening. You are being killed.
Yeah.
If it carried on like that unregulated,
You're
it
in
would
trouble.
be game over.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So what was it about? So obviously you had that amateur boxing match, and you obviously have you been into martial arts like your entire life?
Yeah, my dad and my mum were martial artists.
Oh, nice.
All the way through there.
Yeah.
So my mum was like karate black belt, I believe before my dad. But then my dad was always like, I always went to the gym with my dad, I always did kickboxing when I was a kid, used to compete a little bit. And I had it all the way through my life. Yeah, all the way through. Yeah, it was kind of like an epiphany moment, to be truthful with you, you know, when it was just like, what shall I do with my life when you're young? And it's like, you look around you and it's like, oh, I've got all this training gear around me. It was that for me, if you know, and then it was like, oh, I should try something different, maybe, you know.
So you run the school now where you teach people jiu-jitsu, or you're a part of it?
Yeah, so I've got 3 business partners.
Yeah.
I've got Amy and Ricky.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So 3 of us run Checkmate Plymouth.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I was going to ask you about that actually. So I was watching a documentary the other day on YouTube from Flow Grappling about Buchecha. In that documentary, I'm pretty sure there was a school which he was in Brazil, which was also Checkmate.
Yeah.
So is it like an affiliate sort of thing?
Yeah, so Checkmate's like the banner.
Right.
They're run by Leo Vieira, Rico Vieira.
Yeah.
Or the Vieira brothers.
Yeah.
I think there's like one more.
Yeah.
And basically, so they created Checkmate. But like Rico and Leo are like the more dominant, like prominent, like jiu-jitsu based. You know, because I believe the other brother is more MMA.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of like helps a lot of the guys in
Yeah.
MMA. I forget the team. I think it's American top team. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
But I've never met that gentleman before. But so yeah, that's. But Checkmate is like a big banner.
Yeah.
And then we're a part of that team.
Got ya.
You know, because it's very team based. Although it's an individual, you fight out there by yourself. You know, you got your team.
Yeah, I felt that actually when I came down. I think it was a few weeks ago. Before I went on my trip, they had is it King of the Mat? I think it was called down here. And I was funny. I was sat in the car park, and I think I told you this story. I basically sat in the car park as I normally do, and I was like booking the class. I was going for the class, and I was like, normally this would say no gi training, and it said King of the Mat. And there was a part of me that immediately just wanted to go home, like get back in your van, drive home. You're not doing this. This is stupid.
How did it go?
Oh, it was so good, man. It was so like I had that feeling. I was just like, it was so good. Right? And I'm glad I just went. What's the worst? And I said the same thing when I first started training here. I was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing is you go in there, you get humbled, and that's going to do you some good. So it's fine. So I went in and they had I think they had the team from one of the teams from Saltash come down.
I think it's oh my God, man, I forget the name. But yeah, Jamie Horseman.
Yeah, they all came down and there was like loads of people and it was amazing. But just like that, like you say, that team, the team aspect of it, you know, you also had them guys and the guys here. But when you're individual, that's also, it's amazing how it's sort of like a team and individual.
It's really cool, isn't it? It's super cool, you know what I mean? And those kind of in-house scenarios are like super cool, man. For growth, for development. People get over their nerves a bit more. I remember like always entering like into clubs and stuff like that, and you know, just to get over those nerves, if you know what I mean. People watching you. It's most probably even more nerve-wracking. Like you got your fellow training partners, you know what I mean, like watching you, you know. So it's
don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
Don't mess it up.
Yeah,
don't get choked out.
Don't get choked out. Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
I feel like that's the hardest part of starting when you start jiu-jitsu, like just showing up to the club, especially if imagine like you've never done jiu-jitsu before and it's completely brand new. You show up to a club, especially like for me, like being based in Plymouth as well, you know, you think, oh my God, I'm going to a city gym with like big guys that all know jiu-jitsu and I don't, and I'm going to get absolutely bad.
That was me.
And then you come in and like this happens every time, but everywhere you think threatening, violent people are going to be, they're the most kindest, humble people, and they welcome you in, and they're just glad that you're there. It's the exact same thing with like weight gyms. You know, like people that are overweight, they think, oh my God, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to get laughed at because I've got all this fat, and I'm going to be like. We're all glad to see you there. It's way better that you're here, beginning the journey, than just staying at home, being afraid of it.
100%. And I believe though. Excuse me, like going from the like my jiu-jitsu aspect, if you know what I mean. I'll go to the gym bit in a minute, but it's like jiu-jitsu is now more of a sport. So it's kind of like it goes a little bit like the rock climbing, you know what I mean? It's a sport now. Like back in the day, I guarantee it was just like a couple of nomads just like climbing a rock. You know what I mean? Or like, and then it used to be just a couple of dudes looking to get better at hurting people. You know what I mean? You know, so you had that like real rough, like raw martial artist like mentality in some gyms around the world, you know, and you get like bad reputations through that, you know, throughout the years, you know, where it wasn't a sport, it was just a martial art where you went there, how to get from point A to B to putting that person on the ground or whatever, you know, or hurting them or defending yourself, you know, and I believe that's where the transition has changed now. And I believe that's where it's for everyone, you know, because it's a team sport. It's a sport now. You're also in a team environment, so you're in a social group, you know, and that's the same with climbing and so forth. You know, it's just like you're part of a gym, you know what I mean? You got a good social group, you can hang out after, you know, you got that common grounds, and you can then also compete. You know, which is, it's beautiful. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the kind of, I suppose the impression that I had of martial arts, even like when I was growing up, like say before I was interested in it, like you saw the videos of like Kimbo Slice doing backyard brawls, and then like as you get a little bit older, then Conor McGregor's coming out, I break people's faces for money, then bounce. It's like, that's the mainstream kind of culture that was there for a while, but actually most gyms are, you know, people that want to get better, that are good at being humbled, because you just do not do jiu-jitsu without being humbled at some point. And I also think it's kind of healthy. I think it's healthy from like I don't know, there's, especially amongst men, there's like this weird dominance hierarchy thing that happens all the time. And I think there's something helpful about being on the mat, knowing who's better than you, who's not, like knowing where your place is, but everyone's still respecting each other at the same time. I think that removes a lot of, if you're in a bar and you fight with someone, let's say in an unhealthy manner, it's because you both kind of are wondering who's the dominant one.
Yeah, of course.
Whereas you can come to the gym, get on the mat, you tap me out 6 times.
Isn't it? That's the thing. As I think, you know, and especially more so in men, I would say, definitely in terms of that, like, there's just some sort of like testosterone primal base where you're just like, you want to know where you stand, I guess, you know.
It's difficult, right, though, but some people get hurt.
For sure,
Not just like, I'm not talking physically, but like,
mentally,
you know, they get mentally hurt. And I've seen that a lot. Like, a lot, especially running the gym, you know what I mean? You see obviously it more, or you pay attention to it more. Because you want to keep your customers, right? You want to keep your students safe, but also there you want them to come back. And many times, like you have to tell people calm down, you know, take it steady, you know, and some, especially at the beginning, though, people just don't know how to control themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's in any sport, you know, they just don't know how to use their body. So yeah, it's just, especially when you come in and you're like, right, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna do my best, and then, you know, like, oh, I'm a 120 kilo, you know, power lifter or whatever, you know what I mean, and then you come in and you're like, oh, I'm getting smashed.
By someone who's half my weight.
Yes.
It's what's
How is
amazing about
this
jiu-jitsu.
even possible?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I should be able to do this, you know, but, and then a lot of those guys, especially if they've done a sport before, they stay. Because they understand that this is a long road, if you know what I mean. But like people that don't, and then they're like, or they come in, and I've had this as well many times, and like, oh, I'm a street fighter. I'm like, okay, cool. Like and it's just so you say, no biting, no eye gouging, no punching, no kicking, you know what I mean? Just go and have fun, man, grapple. But a lot of them don't stay. Nah. You know, because they come in with the wrong mindset, you know what I mean? It's like, it's gone back to that old mentality, you know what I mean, of like martial arts gyms. You know, go there to hurt or go there to get hurt, you know, instead of like self-improvement, self-development, physically and mentally.
Yeah.
You know, which is the most important.
So you talk about self-improvement there, obviously being a self-improvement podcast. What is it about jiu-jitsu in particular? I know you said you've done other martial arts as well, but what is it about jiu-jitsu that really sort of allows that self-improvement to happen? Like, is there something that you've noticed over your years of doing jiu-jitsu that you think this is the one compared to others?
That's a good question, man. I don't like, because some people can, that's a big question.
It's a big question. That's what we do.
But it's like, you know, it depends, like, what do I see in self-improvement the most?
Yeah, so just in terms of like, what is it about jiu-jitsu that allows people, and I know we talked about it off air in terms of like, you know, if I compare it to climbing, and that's obviously how I found it as well, there's that constant level of it seems like endless progression. Yeah. You know, there's always a different position, there's always a different way to pass guard, there's always a different way to submit someone, you know, so what is it, is there anything outside of that you think really, and talking from your own experience as well, in terms of what you found to be the best thing for self-improvement?
Yeah, it's endless. It's an endless thing. Self-improvement for like, I've got many students from people that have not left their room in 6 years to then message me and just be like, I want one-to-ones just to like try and come out. Yeah. You know what I mean? And come out of their shell and build them up that way. You know, through depression, bullying, you know, stuff like that. Or guys that I'm overweight. But then as soon as they get grasp of the technique and so forth, and then they're like, right, my body type is this. And I always try and like cater their jiu-jitsu to like their body type, if I can. It's hard to do that in a big setting, like a class, you know, in an evening class, there's a lot of people. And then, but like, I always try and like educate them, like, oh, watch this person fight. And then like, they will suit your body type. So it's like, you fight like a 100 kilo dude, you know what I mean? And you'll be like, right, I need to create distance. How do I create distance? And then you'll be like focused on like how to create distance, so then you have time to think. You see what I mean? It's just an endless cycle. And then you fight someone your own way, and then it's like, what the hell is this? Because sometimes that can be rare. You know, like I got one of my brown belts, he trained with someone his own weight class, and the other guys were watching, and they're like, wow, bro, you can move good. And it's like, well, yeah, man, because I fight you like double my weight.
Totally, yeah.
I can't move as well as, you know, as well as I normally would if I fight someone in my own weight division, you know. So yeah, there's always that self-improvement and building self-belief then through that as well, like trial and error, putting that in the specific training, failing, right? Keep going even though it failed that time. Come back to the coach, check with the coach. Am I doing this right? What do I need to improve on? You know, so forth.
Yeah, there's always something that can be done differently, isn't there?
Yeah, and also for injury as well. That's a big thing, especially in this like full contact sport is martial art. You're gonna get injury. And some of the best advice I ever got given was from a black belt called Pedro Bessa, and he was just like, never stop training, like even if you're injured.
Just tailor it slightly differently to whatever the injury is.
Come in and drill.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're like, can walk.
Yeah.
It's always a good thing. But like, if you're like, oh, I broke my finger, or like, I hurt my wrist, you know what I mean, or I got a dodgy shoulder at the moment. Come in, drill, just be quite communicative with your partner, you know what I mean, and then you can build on that.
Yeah, I've had that multiple times in here over the past few weeks of people being like, oh, careful of my wrist, careful of my arm, ankle, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Don't go for weakness. Yeah, literally, it's like right there, target that exact thing. Yeah.
It used to be a thing.
Yeah.
Watch out for my knee. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like, people make me laugh, you know what I mean? So this is another thing, especially at the beginning, people not knowing how to control themselves. So they come in, oh dude, like watch out for the dodgy knee, yeah, like, and then they'll put 110% in that person. And then the other guy's like, well, I got no other option, dude. Like, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
You know, so it's a give and take, tit for tat.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if you
get a lot of that.
If you come to the club for the first time and you think you're it, and then somebody says, oh, I've got a weak knee, and then you target that knee. Then they're just going to be like, okay.
They're going to pull
look, I was going to be nice, but
there's
now
a
you've
little
done
thing
this.
called Mat Justice.
Yeah.
You know?
Justice, that's what I would
That's it. Yeah, Mat Justice.
You're going to get smacked, right? You know what I mean? So it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
But again, it's checking your ego. You know, pinning your ears back and wanting to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
That's super important.
Yeah. Why is it that jiu-jitsu is such? Why do you think it's got so popular?
There's a number of things, and like I believe it's quite self-empowering. To be truthful with you, like, and it's not just that though. It's like the human connection has been going on for centuries. You know what I mean? For like, you go back to like the Romans. You know, the statues of that stuff. You know what I mean? Where they're grappling and so forth. So it's for me personally, this is the way I think anyway. It's like it's been in our blood. It's been in our DNA for so many years. And then when people realize like actually, I can use my body like this, then it's like an opening, if you know what I mean, for them.
Yeah.
It's confidence. You know, someone grabs you in the street and it's just like your confidence is so much higher because you're in that situation 2-3 times a week, you know, or even more if you become an addict, you know, and then which is many of them, you know, and then it just takes over, you know, and then you're just so much more confident. You behave different, you'll walk different, you'll react to certain stimuluses different in life, I believe, you know, and it helps in many different ways. How has it grown so much? Man, there's so many great people out there that push it.
Yeah.
Obviously awesome podcasts like this, you know what I mean? And you know, like you got Joe Rogan, you know, like constantly, you got like Lex Fridman. They're always sending a good message, you know what I mean? Come and try this, come and try something new, you know. Don't stay in your comfort zone all the time, you know.
And especially when you think of, I mean, Rogan's a smart guy too, but like Lex is arguably one of the most intelligent people around right now.
Yeah.
And he's spotted, and it's like the exact opposite on paper of who you'd expect to be a martial artist. Yet he has realized and seen sense in the fact that martial art has something in it that is worth pursuing. And to the point where he's dedicated, you know, at least a decade of his life if he's a black belt. Right? How long does it take to get from 0 to black belt, do you think?
Yeah, roughly around about 10 years.
Yeah.
Unless you're BJ Penn.
Yeah, unless you're BJ Penn.
You get in what, 3
years?
3 years or something stupid? Yeah.
I believe it was 3, and then he won the Mundials in the half a year later.
Yeah. BJ Penn's like one of the most famous MMA fighters of all time, Hawaiian guy, and he's very well known for getting his black belt like super quick. We called him the prodigy for a reason. 3 years.
Oh.
How long did it take to get your black belt?
10 years.
Yes. There's a difference, you know, like crazy.
Yeah, I'm no prodigy.
Crazy.
But like, it's interesting though because BJ was like back then, because you could only set so many people from your gym to the Worlds.
Right.
You see what I mean? So then they used to have like a lot of in-house tournaments.
Okay.
You know, so he had to go through like several tournaments there to get even on that big stage there to fight against the best in the world.
Mad.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive, man. Like he's incredible story. Obviously, he's a legend himself. Yeah, man.
So what? And just going back to what you were saying then about how jiu-jitsu is and how these things sort of work. With regards to, I mean, I've always had learned it as human chess, is what it's been told to me as, and that was probably the biggest thing that I learned is it's putting you in a position where you're forced to get out of it. If your head is being smashed in towards the ground by someone heavier than you, you're like, you've got to get out of this position, right? I can't just sit here and just let him do whatever they want. So in terms of that way inclined, I feel like that not only is helpful for people physically, i.e. struggle and force struggle and that sort of thing, but the mental empowering of that thing is huge. And for someone like, and the reason I started jiu-jitsu in particular and why it took my fancy was being on the slightly smaller side, it seemed like a great way of being able to get out of those situations, even if you've got someone heavier on top of you. Because it's, although weight and strength and all that sort of stuff plays a factor, the amount of techniques and stuff that you can learn to get out of that is crazy.
Yeah, like you take my role this morning, like with my student, a guy, he's a great friend of mine, and I gotta wait. You gotta be patient.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
But then you also gotta take things from them. So if you're in your perfect stance or your perfect position against me, I've got to weaken that position. You know, is some aspect. You know, and that's the beauty of escapes. You know, and that's something that always drives me and fascinates me is the beauty of the escape. You know, or the reversal. You know, and taking their strength away from them slowly, and then obviously, hopefully, capitalizing on that.
Yeah, I think that's why so many like intellectuals and people get into it. Like Zuckerberg's the other one that's like famous.
Yeah, I've seen that. Training Mikey Musumeci.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's mad. It's mad. And the fact that Mikey Musumeci is like this. I mean, you look like he couldn't do anything to you.
Yeah, and he'll mess your day up.
Yeah, he'll absolutely annihilate. He's like the classic nerdy guy that you see. You know,
100%.
That's what's beautiful about it, isn't it? Like, you see all those funny memes that are like, this guy could definitely beat up this guy, and it's some like tiny dude. You know, it's like Mikey Musumeci versus like a bodybuilder, and you're like, yeah, you could tie him up.
Yeah, he's like, he's a phenom, man. He's a beast.
I think it's very interesting what you're saying about like people that haven't been like come out of the house for 6 years or whatever, and they contact you for one-on-ones and stuff. And I think that is a point, because I think people in that situation, I mean myself included, back when I was younger, you know, like, okay, you don't. It's not about expecting that you're going to be better than you are, obviously.
No.
But I think people do surprise themselves sometimes. I know that when you came back after your first session here, you were like, you know what? I thought I was going to get absolutely smashed.
Yeah.
And admittedly, they went easy on me. Yeah. But it was still like, I wasn't like just instantly game over, GG, getting tapped 10 times, 20 times. And I get that people more experienced are going to be helping you do that, so make sure you have fun. But I think even just that knowledge of, I didn't get absolutely battered, like I'm not hospitalized from this, is hugely empowering in of itself, even if you're not skilled, right?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And not just that though, it's like, as you go through, as you learn to move more, you give better reactions, if that makes sense. So it's like, you know, it's like anything. If you know, I mean, as soon as you understand the patterns and the movement base, where you're like giving your partner, it's like a language, you know, a conversation. You know, if you're giving them the right reaction, they're going to open up more and more and more. Yeah. And then it's going to be like you're going to block them, then they're going to block you, just like the chess game. You know what I mean? So and at the beginning though, you've only got 2 moves, you know. So your language is not that vast, you know what I mean. So as the years go on, you're always trying to add those bits, add those moves, you know. And that's when the beauty comes, you know. Yeah. You know, the more you put into it, the more you get out.
I guess I did some groundwork. I train Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, so we don't do groundwork all that often. I'm pushing for it more, but it's actually hard, so they don't want to do it. But like my one thing that I know right now is the arm bar. Yeah. So whenever I'm doing groundwork, I'm just looking for the arm bar. That's exactly what it makes sense what you're saying. And sometimes I'll get it, sometimes I don't. But equally, it isn't that hard for somebody to clock onto the fact that I'm always going for the arm bar. Yeah. And counteract.
Well, that's another thing. Like if they hide their arm, they're keeping it tight. Well, that's going to expose something else. Yeah. You know what I mean? You know, potentially expose their back, expose the other arm, expose their neck, or even expose their legs. You know what I mean? So it's an endless cycle. It depends which way you want to go with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
you try and cover one thing, and then that opens up another thing. Yes. And it's just a constant, constant cycle of.
It's like running out of water. You don't want to keep running out of the water. You want to be like, okay, I've hit. No, they're not going to give me that. I'm going to go around. You know. And that's when you you start opening up, because then when you go around, you be like, I've lost it completely. Oh, and then I'm getting a little bit tighter. Then I'm getting a little bit better, you know. And then they're catching on to me. Oh, but they've left their arm up like at the first part. Yeah. You know, because they're seeing what you're doing. They don't want that. They want to get, and then they open up more. You know, it's like a Hail Mary escape sometimes. You know, it's Jiu-Jitsu can be systematic, where you can be like feet, knees, hips, upper body. You know, so you're controlling points, you know, and then if you're a passer, But then if you're a guard player, you want to be controlling their arms because that's the first thing that's going to grab you. And then you want to get to their legs. And then you got the chance of either like taking their arm, submitting them, or taking their back, whatever, so forth.
Yeah. Well, we've got much more to talk about. This is the first ad break goes in here because it's 29 minutes already. Can we believe that? It's gone quick, isn't it?
There we go. There we go.
What's up, you winners? Thank you for listening to the Two Beasts podcast so far. Just to let you know, this podcast is sponsored by Maven Visuals Ltd. Maven Visuals is the go-to for video production here in the southwest of England. So if your business needs fresh, engaging video content that will be sure to bring new sales into your company, then don't hesitate to get in touch at www.mavenvisuals.com. Back to the podcast.
So if, let's say, obviously you're a learned man in the art of fighting, and you mentioned earlier that, Jiu-Jitsu gives you a confidence to the degree that in certain situations, like in the street, say, where it could actually get ugly, you feel like you handle those better, which I completely believe too. Let's say somebody's, you're in a bar with your friends.
Yeah.
Some guy starts something. He's trying to start something, you can tell.
Yeah.
What's your step-by-step process of how to diffuse that situation?
That's an interesting question, man. Because, like, for me personally, I don't know, like, I don't believe there's any true, like, self-defense. You don't know what, like, I've had knives pulled on me before, chains, been attacked with chains, been attacked with knives, you know what I mean? So it depends, like, what you want to, you don't want to mess around with that stuff. There's nothing that I teach in my lessons that covers that, you know what I mean? So it's, you just got to be smart, it's at the end of the day, you just got to be smart. And with a situation of like someone coming at me, you got to, what are you there to prove? I don't know about you guys, but I've got many friends that have like hurt people in the past and then like they spend a long time in prison for that, through like going to the pub. It's like these people need to be checked, you know what I mean? And just be like, just calm down, it's just, I'm not too sure. Like, there is no set technique. Just confidence in yourself
absolutely.
To just talk to that person and just be like, look, dude, I got nothing to prove to you.
Yes.
And I'm sure you got nothing to prove to me. But if they come out swinging, then you got to defend yourself like there. Funny enough, I trained with not trained actually, because I had MRSA at the time, but like, I was in California with my, one of my old coaches, Mike Tucker, and we went to visit a guy called Paul Vunak. And if you YouTube him, it's an interesting character. Like, and he was like he's like a Rock and Roll magazine put him as the 9th most dangerous man. And like he developed his art from about street fighting, about biting, knife attacks. He does Filipino, so he does stick and knife, open hand, and it's super interesting. Because he also does like Savat, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He got his purple belt off Hickson Gracie. But all of his thing is based off a bar fight.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And he teaches the RAT. It's called Rapid Assault Tactics, and that's very, very interesting. And that's like he says, it's like a gun in your back pocket. It's like that confidence,
Yeah.
And that's what he teaches, and it's and I find that super fascinating. I've done a little bit of it in my past, but like not much.
Yeah, I mean, it always seems like if you can diffuse a situation and leave.
By talking it.
100%, and I would rather that than bite someone's neck off or something out there, like, or bite into someone's neck. Obviously you can't. It's not the best situation to do that.
It doesn't matter how good or well trained you are at martial arts. If you kill the guy, you're still going to jail.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, there's no pass you can't get a license to kill.
Yeah,
like, not James Bond.
I'm a firm believer in like, I think one of the best martial arts or like self-defense thing would be to understand how to Muay Thai, to do Muay Thai, because most of the things start standing, but they do fall on the ground and you do end up on the ground a lot, but it's just about keeping distance though. It's all about that, keeping that distance from people and diffusing the situation it's always the best thing. Like,
do people sense that from you when you go out? Do you typically get people?
Man, I've got to be honest. Since I've been training like full time or like since I've been training since I started, like maybe I've gotten to like 2 or 3 altercations. Right. None of them got touched.
None of them got violent, yeah.
Yeah, none of them got violent.
I think that's
but
part
before that was a completely different story.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like night and day.
Yeah.
Interesting, right?
Was that before and after you started jiu-jitsu, or was that?
Yeah, so since I started jiu-jitsu, like I don't think I've had I've not had no altercations pretty much.
Do you think that? Oh, sorry.
No, okay.
Mostly just in terms of on that point, I was just thinking, was there anything in jiu-jitsu that has changed you mentally?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in terms of that differentiation of the person.
Because like other things, I wouldn't put up with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would just be stupid and young. You know what I mean? I wouldn't put up with that.
Yeah.
You know.
Whereas now you feel like you're a bit more.
Yeah, like man, I'm too damn tired.
Hey, that's the key.
I'm like, I got a training session tomorrow. I'm like, I can't be dealing with this.
Yeah.
I don't
you know, but yeah. But when you're young and stupid, you know what I mean, you do some crazy stuff, you know what I mean? And it's just, yeah. You know, I've had like, I've done drugs in my past, you know what I mean, where I've like come off addiction and so forth. And it's, I believe I've always had to find that of a purpose for myself, if you know what I mean. And that's where jiu-jitsu filled a big hole, and then I become an addict of that. Beautiful art.
I know what you mean. I mean, the thing is, I don't think it was a legitimate addiction in the end, but I'm 21 months sober from alcohol because I was falling into a habit of drinking more and more often. I don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow my brain was like, hey, you should go drinking tonight. You know, like on your own, nobody there. And I didn't like it at all. But I think that you see this trend time and time again where people that have that kind of addictive personality, if they channel it in the right way, it can be so beneficial to everyone. Like you had problems with drugs or whatever it was that you had problems with, and you know, got into bar fights and all the rest of it. On paper, that man's doomed. You know, that man's a menace to society. You know, it's someone that we want to avoid. It's someone that we wish we didn't have in the world, at least if you're most people. Then you take that and you channel it into building this, club. And now there's people that, like you say, haven't been outside for 6 years that are now confident to take steps outside, build their self-improvement, and actually maybe contribute something to the world.
That's for me. Those people. Why I brought that up is like the best feeling.
Yes.
And not just that. There's like, you know, it's quite recent. I'm not going to say his name, but he was just like, oh, I want a one-to-one because like, just nervous coming back, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm always there for them.
Yeah.
Straight away. And it's like, but then I double booked on this day.
Oh.
And I was like, bro, I'm so sorry, man. Like then, but him coming in, seeing me, seeing that I cared.
Yeah.
And I still genuinely do, you know what I mean? Always want to try and push him to be better. You know what I mean? And like, not to be better as such, like, I take that back. To just feel better in himself.
Yeah.
You know, more so. And like, and now he comes into classes, you know what I mean? He didn't need me really. But when he saw me, I come over, give him a big hug, and man, I missed you, you know what I mean? It's just like, let's get back on the mats.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry though, but I've double booked you today. You know what I mean? Like, we got bad organization, sadly. But like, you know, but seeing him come back in on himself, on his own accord, is beautiful.
Yeah.
For me, that's better than anything. Like any money, anything like that. You see these people like becoming better in themselves, like and being more comfortable in themselves, facing the day, and going out to become better. You know what I mean?
I think even I can attest to that because I think the first class I had with you, I like got your number or I gave you my number and you sent me through like, it must have been like 8 to 10 videos of jiu-jitsu stuff and like, just watch this. I'm still trying to get through it now. It's like, fucking hell. This my brain is just like,
trying to like absorb. I'm a visual learner.
Me too.
And I forget that stuff that I can just watch it and I'll be like, yeah, okay.
Shit.
I got kind of a good idea now.
Got you.
You know what I mean? And it's just stuff, but sometimes man, I still get carried away and like get excited, you know what I mean? I'm just
passionate, man.
Yeah, I just like to just help people, you know, and like put them where I was once, you know what I mean, to like making them feel more comfortable, more confident.
Yeah, but I think that's good. I think we've talked about it before. When enthusiasm, there's a lot to say for it, because if you're not enthusiastic, you can really, your level of enthusiasm that you bring into a situation can really change the dynamic completely.
Yeah.
Like if you go in, there's a guy that I used to train with, and he would show up occasionally. He was busy with work or whatever, but when he did, he just kind of had this kind of attitude like,
Yeah, not care.
oh yeah, cool, might be here next week, and it's just like, I'd rather you just weren't.
Yeah.
To be honest, like the weeks you weren't here, the vibe was better.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
And so I think between the two, I would much rather be over enthusiastic than under enthusiastic.
You get that a lot, like, especially in gyms. Like I've left gyms before in the past where I've just not. The room just didn't suit me. The people were good. They were really good people. They're really nice people. You know what I mean? And I got nothing bad to say about no one, you know what I mean? But, and if it doesn't suit you, then you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then and then it come to a point where I was just like, actually, I want to create something. I want to see what I can build, you know what I mean? Or what me and my partners can build, you know? And it's super interesting because we've all got a different flavor, you know? So and you hit a lot more bases, does that make sense? So it's like other people come in, you know, you got Ricky, you got Amy, and then you got myself, you know, but then we've also got other coaches as well that are under us. So it's, you know, some students, like I don't even know their name, a lot of them, you know what I mean? I'm terrible for names anyway, you know, real bad. And I come in like at 6 a.m., God forbid, sometimes I got to cover that class. I'm joking. But like, you know, the boys take it, bless them. And like some of those dudes there, they're amazing, you know. Well, all of them are amazing, man. And the class is so big now. And it's like, but I know hardly any of them, you know what I mean? Because it's just grown so much.
Yeah.
You know, the family's grown so big. We went from, you know, being like 30, I remember like just paying to work at the beginning. Paying to work, and you get 10 members, and you lose 2, and it's like, oh my God, that's soul destroying.
Yeah.
And then like, I guess that's more of a business aspect, you know what I mean? But like, and then you get to 35 and then, it was good. And then get 40, 45. And then you take another knock. And then, but then like COVID hit. And then after COVID, then it was just like massive explosion.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you saw
Yeah.
COVID boosted membership for you because people were just wanting to get out?
Big time. As soon as people come back from COVID, I was allowed to go out from COVID, then it was like massive influx.
Interesting.
Yeah, massive.
Why do you think that was?
Man, like I was saying back at the beginning, you know what I mean? People need that. I feel like they need that connection. You know what I mean? It's in our DNA. Like, why can't we have that? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like close proximity, fighting, you know what I mean? But in a safe environment. You know, where women can fight women or women can fight men. But the man's courteous enough to be like, right, I'm gonna fight her. I'm gonna use my technique also. You know, I'm not just, oh, thank you, yeah, you won. Like, no, like, you know, fight her. Yeah. You know what I mean? If I can do that and I fight like a 55 kilo woman or 50 kilo woman and I can get a workout myself, well, then so can you. You just gotta understand how to move your body, you know, and so forth. And again, back to my point again earlier as well, like, you know, understanding like the steps, giving the right reactions. You know, not trying something that you watched on YouTube that day, like snapping someone's leg or something like that, because like that stuff happens also. You know, and it's and I guess that's down to the coach show, but yeah, sorry, I lost track then.
That's all right.
No, you're good.
Is there anything in terms of, obviously you run your own business with your partners and stuff. Is there anything that you feel that you've learned through jiu-jitsu and you can transfer that into your business in terms of, like, I don't know, sort of like mentality wise, you know, what has jiu-jitsu taught you that's allowed you to be good at
be patient,
side of things?
Be patient, be real patient. It's like, be patient and just believe in your product. Believe in, if that's like in a business aspect, believe in your product and make sure your product's good and listen, you know what I mean? Like, I remember when I had like, it was just me and Amy. And then we brought Ricky on board because he wanted to be, he was like, man, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And I was just like, man, you know what? I'm going to help you. You know what I mean? In every way I can. And then So you come aboard, and then all of a sudden, you're accepting somebody else's opinions and stuff. And for some people, that's just too much of like knocking their ego. But for me, it was just like, actually, man, you're right. And the more I said, the more I let it go, and the more I like realized like change is good. You know what I mean? And like development, because you don't know it all. And you might not even, and I'm guilty for this, especially like you go in like a roundabout sometimes. I mean, it's not until you speak to somebody, it's like, man, why didn't I think of that? You know what I mean? It's like, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And hitting it from different angles and so forth, like videos or like different ways of promotion and everything like that.
Yeah, it's completely vital to have a team.
Yeah.
At least to some degree. I mean, the amount of, even just the difference between like us two doing this podcast, the fact that we've done it together has created so much advantage versus other things I've done in the past where I've done it mostly on my own.
Yeah, solo.
It's taken so much longer.
Oh yeah.
It's so much harder. You don't figure out. You're less accountable.
Yeah.
Like running your own business. If you don't do that extra work, I mean, obviously you've got to come to your classes. But if you don't do the plan or whatever when you're at home, no one's telling you. No one's telling you have to. You're fine. You can let it go.
And that's it. You know what I mean? It takes over as well. It takes over for me. Like I train pretty much like I'd say 6 days a week now.
Yeah.
So it's it does take over, but that's what you want, isn't it? That's the goal. To like build something super good, and like and just seeing it and seeing the benefits as well. The layers now. It's like you get layers and of like, well, for me, student based, if you know what I mean. For other businesses, growth. Your name, get name put out there in a positive manner as well. Because like people talking about you in a good way is, the ultimate benefit. It's the best advertisement going. And reaping the awards.
What's the hardest part of building a business like this? The Jiu-Jitsu club that you got. What was the hardest part of building it?
Oh, sacrifice, man.
Yeah,
sacrifice.
What did you have to sacrifice?
Like every business.
Money, time. Relationships and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's all takes a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. But like you were saying, like in a team, but I've also got my professor as well, like Marco Cagna.
Right.
Give my black belt.
Yeah.
I rely on him, you know what I mean? I always ask him questions, or like, drop him a message and so forth, and it's also having that support as well for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know it all, and that's people that get to a certain level, then it's just, I've made it. No way, I still roll with Marco now, you know what I mean? He does things, he shows me things, I'm just like, that's cool. That's easier. Or like, that's much better. You know what I mean? You always have those like eureka moments of just like, I didn't think of it like that.
I guess that's the difference.
The other day, actually,
about
nobody is truly self-made.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You hear
nobody.
it's like, self-made millionaire. It's like, no, he's not.
Nonsense.
No, you're not. There's always people around you that have helped you get to that point. And it's that kind of. Again, we talked about this before. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So having those people around you is so important when you're trying to build.
Well, for me now, it's my students that look after me. What I mean? I got some of my best friends now. Like guys that I teach. I'm not going to call them my students. You know what I mean? I'm going to call them my friends. So it's like, and that's when I first started, it was like you couldn't have that like connection with the coach. Does that make sense? So it was like the people used to push that away. But then I've had other coaches like Mark Tucker, who's like one of my old coaches, and he was very much a father figure, if you know what I mean. He was a good man. He's a good coach. But people teach you in different manners, don't they? You know what I mean? Like one can be more technical, and one can just teach you like he taught me something, I believe, that you can't really teach that easy, and that's to fight. The like to fight. Does that make sense? Like getting used to being smothered.
Yes.
Enjoying that.
Yeah.
Not being afraid if you get your face absolutely like smashed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, feeling, comfortable in those uncomfortable environments.
Just monitoring the self-preservation element.
And knowing like actually, I'm still alive. You know what I mean? It's like, I can keep going, you know, and I believe, you know, as a coach, you know, trying to teach that is hard, you know, so I fully appreciate him for what he taught me then, you know what I mean? For Marco, Marco teaches me a lot, you know. I'm not so many words as such like there for his business, but I watch his business, you know what I mean? I see his character, I see the man that he is, you know, he's a good man, and that carries through his students, you know what I mean? He's an approachable man, if you know what I mean? So it's like, just those little things, it doesn't have to be words or anything like that, just be like, how has this man made it so successful? And James as well, that runs the gym, and obviously Marco's wife as well, they're such a good team, you know what I mean? It's a team there. So it's and that's Fight Zone London. That there is like where they got in the base in London, and it's just a great environment. You know what I mean?
I think the most interesting part or one of the most interesting parts about what you were saying there is the relationships element, because when you're trying to build something, and like you say, you believe in your product, you actually believe in what you're doing, and you know that you may not know everything, which is the hardest bit, but you know that if you keep going in this direction, it will work. Yeah. And you just believe that in your heart. And then you come across people that some have been in your life for a while, or they enter your life from, you know, as you come along that journey, and they start to kind of put doubts in your mind about stuff.
Yeah.
And then
naysayers.
And even if they don't directly naysay, they start trying to slowly demand things from you over time, like more of your time. Hey, you spend 6 days a week in the club. Why don't you, like, let's say you're dating someone. You spend 6 days a week in the club. Like, when do we go out? Like, when are we going to go on holiday? When are we going to go abroad? And it's just like, especially, I'm still not sure to what degree you compromise on that and agree, because, you know, you can't be everything. Like, you can't be completely selfish. Versus, I don't know, it's just a hard balance.
It's an incredibly hard balance
to make, yeah.
It's incredible, and I don't think that ever ends.
No.
And like, it will never end. Well, it's never ended for me, you know what I mean? Because it is a constant battle. But then also you got to like take a step back and you be like, right, how much have I been home this week? How much time have I put into the family? You know? And it's like, you know, that's what I never did. And that I try and do now, you know, but still a way about that, you know what I mean? It's like, because you get obsessed with, you know, building your business, you know, you want to reach your top, but guess what? The goalposts keep moving, you know, they keep going up and up and up, you know, so you're never going to reach your target really, you know, so you get used to the money, you know, it's like any business, isn't it? Anything like that, your CEO, they want more. You know, so it's difficult, isn't it? But like, you do have to check, you know, and like you say, where do you compromise? Like, where do you say actually? And I think it's down to the individual just being like, right, have I been at the gym, like, or have I been here all the time? Like, you know what I mean? Maybe I should take more time. Or what about we have this night together? What about if we have this day together? What about if we have 2 weeks in this moment? You know, and that's and communication is key, right?
Yeah,
and just making sure you've got the right people around you.
Yeah, that too. About, you know? when there's complementary, when people have the same goals as you, it's definitely helpful. And I wonder to what degree in the end that will just be the answer. It's like, well, you just have to have people that are in it with you. Otherwise,
I think you're constantly swapping people out. I think what you've just said there, where you're like constantly changing things throughout your life. I think that's just how it is, because you jump through stages in your life, and people come in and they leave, and some stay, and all of that sort of stuff. So, you know, we've been friends for what? 15 years now, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, and it's funny because our friendship as well is like, we've diverged and gone different ways for a while, and then it just always seems to have come back in the same kind of way. It's just so hard to explain, and other people have drifted away, and other people that are on paper should be like that, then aren't like that. It's a really funny.
I think it's just being aware, isn't it? I think it's being aware of who's around you, who you have around you, where you're going, where you want to go, and just making sure that whatever you're doing. And there is a certain sense of selfishness, I think, that has to happen within that. But again, you also need those people around you, and the correct people around you, to bring you back in and center you correctly when you start to be a bit too selfish. And
I'm like fully blessed here at the gym, because the family is just massive. You know what I mean? It's like truly, truly blessed. Like
Definitely feels like a family environment.
Yeah, there's not one
for sure.
person I wouldn't want to go out for a beer with.
Yeah.
In the gym, like not one person at all. And like, I've only ever had to remove one person from when I've ever been teaching, if you know what I mean, from my academy. You know, and that's like, what's it, 7 years now, I believe? 7 to 8 years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's good
Especially
numbers.
in this like kind of like you say, like it can be a macho environment, you know what I mean? Or like, you know, where it's, yeah, you know, everyone's on the same path of self-development, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. So it's, and I got a bit of a saying, like in the evenings, like there's, like when we do our specific training, like there's all different types of levels, all different types of body types. Don't be a dick. It's as simple as that.
Nice and simple.
Yeah.
Very, very
Don't
simple.
be a dick.
And I repeat myself quite a lot, and it's just like, but that's all I say.
Yeah.
And you gotta be like that.
Yeah.
And it's just if you weigh 100 kilos, you know what I mean, and you're fighting a female that weighs 45 or 50, you know, and you're slamming your hip into it, you know what I mean? It's just like, well, you know, come on, man.
Yeah.
You know that will hurt. Let's say like if you fight your child, you know that's gonna hurt your child or your daughter, your wife, you know what I mean? Don't do that. You know what I mean? Control yourself, you know, but that's so difficult though as well, understanding your body. You know, and understanding that kind of thing, and yeah. So it's a lesson in itself.
Yeah, well, you learn your limbs for the first time, I guess, don't you? You learn what you are good at and what you aren't good at.
Yeah.
And like you say, when you come in with that mentality of something to prove, it works well in some environments, but when you're trying to have join a jiu-jitsu community where everyone's at different levels, you know.
Yeah, I'd say the fastest student that I had was a ballet student, and he was phenomenal, man. I used to call him Legs. And like he was just picked up everything super easy because he knew how to move his body.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew how to move. And I think, you know, like guys, the problem is like you must probably find like some older dudes come in, which is amazing. You know what I mean? Because they're facing their fears. They're like, right, potentially I could get injured. You know what I mean? And then it's like, right, they could be like top of their food chain. You know what I mean? They could be top of their like game in their business, and then they're trying something new, and if they're getting injured and so forth like that, and then they gotta like, because they come in quite tense, you know, a lot of dudes, you know, and then it's like you gotta relax, try and flow a little bit more, you know what I mean, try and move yourself.
Yeah, and well, I think what you said about being comfortable in uncomfortable environments, it's actually, when I was at uni, it's funny, I guess this isn't that unique a statement, but I thought I was a genius for coming up with it. I was like, you know what, I want my comfort zone to be not being in my comfort zone. Yeah. That's my goal. That was like the goal I set. And uni was a great way to kind of kickstart that because, you know, you move out, you're in a new city and all of the rest of it. And I'm like, I'm just going to stay in this space for as long as I can, like outside of this area. And that ended up doing various things, et cetera, et cetera. And then now I feel like yesterday I didn't do too much work. I had a bit of a lazy day yesterday. Kind of hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it. Finished the day like, you know, what did you do? Like he come back from his work trip. I was like, mate, I'm
tired.
I'm ruined because I've just been up and down the country.
I've had a bullshit day, mate. Honestly, I've absolutely shagged it.
It's just sweating your face, man.
The difference.
I've sat here, I've done nothing, I've achieved nothing, I feel horrible. But equally, I'm like, I'm glad that I feel like this. In some ways you panic a little bit. I guess, you know, when you're in a guard and you think you can get out of it, suddenly you realize you can't and you're like, uh-oh. Kind of like that for me because it's like, okay, I thought I could take a day off whenever I wanted to. Turns out when I do, impending sadness comes. This will not work. So now I'm stressed out about working, but equally I'm even more stressed out if I don't. It's actually, I'm in a guard I can't escape from. But I'd much rather be like that, right? Because then at least you're being pushed into the correct mode.
You'd rather that than the other way around.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, so that's the key. That's the key.
But rest is important, though, dude.
Yes,
rest is very important.
But that's my strategy when I was doing groundwork. Well, whenever we do it with Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, it's like being uncomfortable or being comfortable with that uncomfortable situation. Like, okay, I'm crushed. Like these guys are all better than me, so I'm being crushed. My face is all like mashed up and all that. I can barely breathe. But I'm like, okay, I have got fitness on my side. Okay, so let me just hold on. Let me just look calm. That's part of it. Just
Game
like,
face.
when they get up and they're like gassed. Yeah. They get up, they're gassed, and you just get up and you're just nose breathing, like, are you ready? Are you okay to go again? And then like, I eventually will wear them down.
Yeah.
Like anything I can do, just like put a knee on their stomach so that it's harder to breathe, like push their face up if I can. Like anything I can do to just make it as miserable as possible for them.
Smother
It's the little ones, It's the little ones.
Eventually, you wear them down. You do like 3-4 rounds of that, if you've done the foundational work on your fitness, you're in a much better position by the end of that time. It's just a attrition game, isn't it?
Yeah, that's interesting, man. Yeah, I normally find like with, like when, say, like you're competing and stuff like that.
What's up, winners? If you're loving this podcast, make sure to drop us a 5-star review on Spotify. And if you aren't already, be sure to follow us on our social media channels. That's YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. 2 Beast Podcast, the number 2 Beast Podcast. Let's get back to the show.
It's all together, because you got adrenaline dump. You want to do well. You know what I mean? You're in a stressful environment. And the person that you're up against is potentially as good as you or better. So it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And you got to prepare yourself, obviously. Like preparation is everything. And but when I was before all of that, though, when I was brown belt, I was just like so focused. Was like to the gym, build the gym, build the family, build the build the shooting base, so we can do those things like later on. Does that make sense? So it was like maybe I should have done it both at the same time, but for me personally, I felt like I needed to focus just on one.
Yeah, I would
and then
agree.
go to the other.
Totally.
If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right or wrong, I don't know, man. But like, so I went back to, like I said, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So, and it was super interesting, man, because I went all the way to Barcelona and competed in this competition, and it was the European Masters, funny enough, and it was super cool, man. Like, went there, and I was like, right, I'm here by myself, pretty much. I got my teammates with me, a few of my teammates, and we went there, and like, I lost first round, but like, me going there, because you're not like, I'm not going there by myself no more. I went there with like, okay, you got like 200 plus students, and you're going there to compete, and you lose first round. It's like, damn, man, I made a mistake. I made a mistake, and you pay for that instantly. So it's just like, your lessons are like so valuable in competition, because you learn them there and then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, don't get me wrong, some of them you can recover from, but others, like, you gotta like, right, I gotta practice this more. I gotta do this more. I gotta do this faster, or I gotta do this more efficient. I dealt with my nerves better here. Oh, I need to deal with my nerves better for the next time. I feel like I can do better here. So it's not just about technical improvement. It can be about like feeling more comfortable. And then like went to another one, and then I like, right, won first round. That was good. It was up against a rival gym in East London. Super good. Like, I needed to win this for myself. And it was, funny story, go into that fight, not just to go off track a minute, but go into that fight. The guy from Paddington was just like, it's 10-minute walk from here, you know what I mean? Ended up becoming 45 minutes. So I ran there to the stadium, and as soon as I got through the stadium door, they're calling my name.
Oh shit! My God.
And you guys are literally getting changed on the balcony, and then going down, signing myself in, weighing in, on the mats, fight.
Done.
My clothes are saturated. I was like, well, anyone's going to steal these, they need a problem. They got an issue, Was
that how you made weight? It was just for that run?
Oh, no, weight is an issue. I'll talk about that later. But like, so it was, maybe that might have been better, because then I didn't have time for all the bullshit thoughts going through your head and so forth like that you've got to deal with in competition. But for me, I was already prepared. I had good training. I went there, and I fought my hardest. First round, got through the first round, went to the second round, and then got to the second round, the guy was just far superior than me. He was a 3rd-degree black belt, trains in an amazing gym in Abu Dhabi, So it's just, but then I made a friend then, the gentleman that beat me, So it's just like, oh man, like, where do you train? I want to come train with you,
Yeah.
You get stuff like that, we're like linking up. And so yeah, that helps me a lot now.
That's the beautiful thing. The most beautiful part of, and I love seeing this when it's like on the UFC or whatever, when guys get into it, they get a good fight. One gets battered inevitably, and they're sat there all bloody and mashed up and all that, and they're like hugging each other, bro. Good fight. You know, it's just
settles everything, doesn't it?
It's just an honourable way to live. You know, it's just that traditional honour that you always hear about in the history books, like being played out in front of you, and it's just such a beautiful thing.
All the bullshit just goes out the window. It's just it's down to that one moment.
Yeah, MMA is another kettle of fish. You know what I mean? Because that's very, you know, having the thought process of like being mounted and then someone grounding a pound on your face.
Yes,
it's completely.
And that's a big thing to overcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And staying calm in that situation, you know, is just, is very, very challenging for that individual, you know.
I can't remember what fight it was we watched, but there was a fight we watched, because Ollie has UFC and I occasionally like look over it or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was this guy getting, like, he was on the ground and pound with an elbow, just getting battered repeatedly. And like, it's one thing as someone that doesn't fight to see it, but when you've actually done a bit of it as well, and you've like seen an elbow accidentally strike you in the face during groundwork, it sucks. And then you're watching this guy get absolutely beasted, and like you just know his face is never going to be the same again. And you're just, how is this on TV in any regard? This is wild. But equally, it's like, I wouldn't want it to be off TV. Like, I'm glad we have it. I think it's important to see the wins and the losses.
Man, it's a beautiful sport. I love it. I love MMA. I love to watch it.
Have you competed in MMA or not?
No. I used to train with a lot of MMA fighters.
Yeah.
Lots of them, Lots of my good friends are MMA fighters. And they're great, man. They love it.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a, you know, staying sharp, staying with the right team, staying with the right training partners. You know, it's very, very important, you know what I mean? Because that's even smaller community, in my opinion, for like MMA. Your community is very small. You got your striking coach, you got your sparring partners, you know, you got your grappling coach, you know, and you got your wrestling coach. You know, you got to go over all of those disciplines. It's not like, it's not a walk in the park, 100%. Yeah, so it's, I have a lot of respect for MMA fighters, really, really do.
It's by far one of the hardest things you can, I mean, Rogan talks about it all the time, you know, he talks about it as like, other than being a soldier or being like, you know, I don't know, like frontline, any of that sort of like, you know, ambulance services and all that sort of stuff. It's one of like by far the hardest jobs.
Yeah, it's difficult,
you can think of, you know,
it's
like
earning money as well, you know, earning money from it. Like grappling is so, I find it concussion of the body instead of concussion of the head. That's good. You know what I mean? So it's like your body's sore as shit, you know. But like,
I feel that.
That's the beauty of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you can add like, especially now as the rules are adapting in certain organizations, like you can add different things from different arts. Catch wrestling, you know.
Combat Jiu-Jitsu, Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, well, the slice of the face, and that looks so brutal. You know what I mean? That looks, catching a slap to your ear, dude. Man,
like, ring your bell. That
man, my ears are sore. They are, you know. But like, but yeah, like the different things, like adding the wrestling, adding the judo, you know, adding that, you know, creating more of a, getting your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu even better and better. You know what I mean? It's just an endless cycle. You know?
Yeah, it's what I have noticed actually, because since I've started watching a lot more Jiu-Jitsu in particular, they talk about how, and I've even had it in here in some of the classes, in terms of how wrestling's now been brought into it.
Yeah.
So you look at like guys like, oh my God, why is his
name?
Bo Nickel.
Yeah, Bo Nickel.
Yeah, so you got him. There's the other guy that used to train with Gordon Ryan. His name escapes me. Big dude, heavyweight guy. Won his ADCC and like, or second in ADCC. In
Nicky Rod.
That's him.
Has he got MMA now? Is he? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't really kept up much, but just watching how it's like, and that's what's so interesting about Jiu-Jitsu, and kind of similar with climbing, in that there's so many crossovers with so many different sports that you can bring in. Obviously, like combat sports in particular, but the crossover between different sports is mad. Like so for me, if I take myself for example, obviously climber, I did gymnastics when I was younger. So then when I started in Jiu-Jitsu, I immediately noticed like my hip dexterity and flexibility and mobility came in like straight off the bat, you know, and it was just the mental
and that
side.
stuff helps, like gymnastics.
Totally, yeah.
Gymnastics is like the one, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's super interesting because I did sports strength and conditioning and sports rehab at university, and it was interesting because, you know, you look at different teaching methods throughout like the world, you know, like the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
how they teach their kids and so forth, not letting them just do one sport. It's multiple different sports, like stringent, throughout the week, so they don't come on one side or something, even though they could be a gymnast or like a football player or whatever, They're doing multiple different disciplines until they become a certain level, if you know what I mean, and then they're strict on that.
Yeah.
And that's like, I find that they're fascinating. Gymnastics, I wish I did more of it when I was a kid. Like really, really do. Because I feel like it's about the balance of the body, and it's understanding that. I try and learn gymnastics now, and it's painful.
It's hard.
I make sure the gym is empty.
That's it, yeah. You're like looking around.
CCTV can go on.
Don't record any of this.
But it's a hilarious thing, man. You get some viewings for that.
Let me try a quick fire thing. So let's say I'm a new person coming in. I've never done jiu-jitsu before. I want to get started. Let's say like my build, right?
Yeah.
Fairly muscular, but totally inflexible, completely useless. What's my best chance on a mat against a given person, like an average person?
Oh, of course. Like you could pin someone, you know what I mean? But unless you know how the full application of a submission or something like that, you know what I mean? You're always going to be struggling in that case, if you know.
Yeah.
And not just that though, I always find people don't understand about their own weight, gravity. If you're on top, you got gravity on your hands, on your side. So but how do you generate as much force as humanly possible? Like lifting your hips up, putting the head down, tripoding on them, so forth. That's going to change your weight dramatically compared to if you're on your knees, trying to push with your hands. Because then it's only the weight from your hands or your arms and your upper body that are doing that. The rest of your weight is through your knees.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's how would you do it? It depends how you would approach it in the end of the day,
Yeah.
But I would always say though, man, just go there, have fun. Go there, have fun, make mistakes. As many mistakes as humanly possible.
And what about if you're, let's say, so someone like Ollie's build then, athletic, smaller stature, what's their best chance? What's their best weapon, you think?
Their best weapon? Mm-hmm. Well, man, most of the time, for me, even though I'm 6'2", 6'3", I was always the weaker one in the class, you know what I mean? So I always play guard. I always play bot. Mm-hmm. Call me a lazy bastard or whatever, you know what I mean? But I'm always sitting on my ass.
Yeah.
And then I wrestle up. It's just a part of my game, if you know what I mean.
You're the guy in the memes.
Butt scooter.
The guy breaks into your house, you're on the floor, ready to go.
Let's go.
But no, definitely. I've always fight from the bottom, make my way up. And that's something though that, Ricky and Amy, we always, it don't matter what weight class you are, we want you to be good on the bottom. Because I can guarantee you're going to feel comfortable when you're on top. But when you're on the bottom, if you feel comfortable there, and then when you sweep someone, you come up on top, you're in your happy place, right?
Yeah.
So it's always best to develop that. You take Nicky Rod, for example. He didn't have a guard for a very, very long time, and I think now he's developed a very good guard now, but that wasn't his first go-to.
Top game was his biggest thing, wasn't it?
Although he was a wrestler, freestyle wrestler as well. So those freestyle wrestlers, I don't know if you ever trained with one of them, but they're a bloody nightmare to get off you, you know what I mean? But you put any of them on their back, they're in trouble. So it's, and the same with real big dudes. I will put them on their back, and then it's my turn, you know what I mean? So it's, but say that big dude, I train, you know what I mean? I train many of them, and it's just make your guard good.
Yeah.
Because then the smaller guy is going to come in and they'll be like, oh shit, he's pulled guard fast.
Yeah. Well, that's what I tried to do. I tried to just basically make sure that, my thinking was, I was right, just don't let your guard get past. It's been the biggest, every time I've gone for roll, I'm right, try and, keep tight, make space when you can. Just try and use that
that's
as
exactly
much as possible.
It. Shrimp, move your hips.
Yeah.
And it's a very, it's a tricky thing to just explain, you know what I mean? But if they're controlling your lower body, they're not controlling your upper body.
Yeah.
If they're controlling your upper body, they're not controlling your lower body. Yeah. There's always advantages and disadvantages of trying to pin someone, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's such a beautiful thing, you know what I mean? And that's
sense.
something as well, like I take away from like freestyle wrestling is like the reversals and stuff like that, you know, and it's, I love all that stuff. But defense in itself, being comfortable down there, being comfortable in someone passing your guard, but then understanding what do I need, what tools do I need to make them feel weaker now, getting on my side, facing them, not letting them control my head, wrestling up from that situation, you know what I mean? Or turning away, giving your back, fighting from a turtle position. Does that make sense? So it's
one of the things one of the rounds that I went when we did groundwork once was, and I was quite impressed with my own fight IQ here. I thought yes, because it worked out. Yes, so like on this occasion, my theory was correct. Like for the first time, it was a blue belt. He was better than me. He was about the same size, and he immediately just went in violent.
Yeah,
and he was trying to scare me, and I knew that's what he was trying to do. So I was like, okay, like let him tire himself out. I was kind of letting it happen a bit. I was getting chucked about a bit, like on the face of it. And I think this is one of the beautiful aspects of Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
On the face of it, I was getting absolutely humbled at the beginning. But equally, I knew he wasn't going to be able to do it. I knew I had the gas in the tank.
Yeah.
So like give it, 90 seconds or so of him tumbling me about like a lunatic. He's gassed. And I've expended basically no energy.
Yeah.
Like I've got a bruise maybe on my arm from where he did, but other than that, I'm good. Then I ended up starting my fight, like 90 seconds in, and then I got the armbar and closed the case, and I was like, okay, sweet. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the sport that's reflective of life is sometimes when you're getting hammered, there's still a play to make. And sometimes you have to go into the dark place in order to, it's always darkest before the dawn.
100%. Yeah.
One of the great life lessons I think that Jiu-Jitsu can teach you.
Yeah. Or like even when you're in a tough room, you're at a good level.
Yeah.
And you go to a super, like when I go to Fight Zone London, better bring water, man, because you're gonna need it.
Yeah, it's for a purpose. You're getting battered for a reason.
Yeah, you go in there.
In my example there, it was 90 seconds of battering in order to close that round.
Yeah.
But when you're, like you say, you go to a gym where everyone's tougher than you, it's a whole evening of getting battered so that in like year, 2 years, 3 years time, you can actually stand a chance.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah.
Just coming in and just being like, right, okay, let's just see what happens tonight. I'm just going to try and see what, I can learn and just try and,
That's it though. You want to have like an end goal, right? I'm going to try and get somebody's back.
Yeah.
We had a real cool guy visit us. Sadly, I was away for the seminar. He's called Seth. And he come down and he was just like, I learned a technique and I'm just going to try and do that technique as many, many times as I can. Fail, get it, fail. You know what I mean? He didn't care. He was just going to try and repeat the process.
Yeah.
And every single roll that he had. Just to get it in his head. Because that's the hardest thing, keeping the knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's like, but keeping it, the best way to keep it is by just repetition.
Doing it.
Repetition, And 100%. Trying to do that in an active, because you can get it down when it's a static situation. Oh, right, let me throw my leg. Oh, that's how I got to do it. Okay. And then doing that there then with a fighting opponent, most of the time that goes out the window.
Yeah.
Improvising from that point, isn't it?
And then you got to learn how to set it up. Then you got to like, oh, can I bait him here? How can I do this? And that's when it becomes like, I guess that's like a little bit later on as you get better and better. But like, it's like the arm bar. Okay, how can I get this from close guard off my back? How can I get this when I'm on top mount? How can I get it from side control? Where else can I get this from? What's the defense? Oh no, I got caught in an arm bar. Then you learn the defense. And then you see like, oh, when they defend like this, I can attack this on. You see what I mean? So just your jigsaw puzzle pieces come together.
Yeah.
And that's how you build your game. It's like, it's a beautiful thing.
Has anyone ever told you how similar it is to skydiving?
No.
What you do?
No.
Because,
I'm afraid of heights, dude.
So
I'm not even joking, man. I'll pass out.
So August last year, look, podcast listeners will know this. I think I've brought it up like 3 times now. It's getting a bit sad. We've only done like 10 episodes. But I qualified as a skydiver last year. So did the AFF course. And when you were saying earlier, especially about the competition stuff,
yeah.
one of the things my instructors taught me was don't impress your instructor. Don't try to impress your instructor, which is kind of what you were saying about, just don't go in there trying to prove something because you're just going to end up hurting other people, hurting yourself, whatever. And with the competition stuff, get in control of your nerves. The fact that drills are all going to go to shit anyway when you get into the field, it's about, what's that phrase? You fall back to your highest level of preparation. Yeah, when things are when you exit the plane and you feel the drop in your stomach and now that's it. You've got 60 seconds before it's game over. In order to pass the course, you have to do these various different things that you have to do. You have to perform things. And also, you're put out of your comfort zone. There's not a single point, and I said this on the last podcast as well, there's not a single point of that course where you think that you're ready to do what they're asking you to do. Until you get to the consolidation stage.
It's like jiu-jitsu, man. Like, I always try and show as much of my game. I always try and show more of my game each time. And that obviously depends about what the person's like. You know what I mean? Are you going to be able to? Are they just going to shut you down and smash you? You know what I mean? So you're always trying to do more. You show more of your game. Like you would in a gym environment or like your drilling environment. You're like, I got this down. You know what I mean? Or like when you're in a gym training with your best mate, and you're beating each other up, but you see the armbar, then, you do things more smooth, because you're in a comfortable environment at the end of the day. You're in your happy place, And then you go to a competition and you show maybe 2 or 3% of your game. And then it's like, okay, next time I want to show 5. Next show I want to 10. You know what I mean? And it's building that up, because especially at black belt, you're not just fighting the guys that I'm a first degree black belt. So I've been black belt for just over 3 years now. Over 3 years. 4 years maybe, I can't remember. But then you fight guys that have been black belts for 10 years. And it's just if they know what's coming, if they see what's coming, so you got to set up traps, you got to set up tricks, you know what I mean? And positional awareness. So there's many different aspects, that you got to add to that. But again, showing more of yourself.
So over the course of, say, I don't know, a competition where there's, say, 10 fights, you say you're trying to use a really limited arsenal on that first round, and then each round you're kind of letting more and more tricks out the bag?
That's an interesting question. I know, normally, say I'm preparing you for a competition. I want you to have you like being on bottom or you like being on top, but I'm going to force you to go on the bottom and get a good sweep. You know what I mean? And then when you're on top, then you're like, right, now I feel good. You know what I mean? And then you're going to be like, right, I'm gonna do this. You try and repeat that process and refine it, build on it. Does that make sense? So then you're developing yourself. And not just that though, you're developing your confidence through the adrenaline, through the people watching you. Because and then when you go back to the gym and train, you're like, I got this.
The bar is so much.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, right, what's next? What can I do next? I feel like I could do this. This happened to me. The person did this, stopped me here.
Well, I guess that's also kind of goes back to what you were saying about, in the street fight situations, in the confidence situation, when you know what a punch in the face feels like, the prospect of getting punched in the face is no longer a threat. No. I think 50 Cent talked about it in his book. I don't know if you read that one. Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. It's a good book. And he talks about how boxing changed his life. It's like, I used to, the thing that gave me confidence about boxing was I took a punch to the face. And I was like, this isn't so bad. And once you know what that feels like.
It's that fear of the unknown, isn't it? That's the thing. Exactly. As soon as you totally negate that fear, because you know what's coming.
And it's not a shock.
It's not
the
a shock.
The less shocks you can take out. And the more shocks you can add in to the other person, the better chance you have. And that's kind of a lesson for life, isn't it? It's a game of chess.
100%.
Hello there, champions. Hey, are you getting married soon? Or do you know somebody that's getting married soon? So outside of this podcast, I am a wedding videographer full-time, and Maven Visuals Wedding Films is my company and also the sponsors of today's podcast. So if you want that guy from that podcast to come and actually film your wedding for you, then all you have to do is visit www.mavenvisualsweddingfilms.com. And if you mention that you're a Two Beasts listener in the consultation, then you will get 10% off whatever package you choose. All right, see you then. Back to the podcast. This club is obviously based in Plymouth. What would you say to people that are looking to start a club?
Start a club.
Or start joining a club.
Start joining a club. Man, like, just turn up. Find a good club. You know, like, always try and have a look around. I would suggest to have a few to look around at. You know, most of the time you can go for a free trial.
Yeah.
You know, I have free trial here. Guys turn up. And they're like, oh, I'm not too sure. Like, I'm going to have a look around. It's not a problem at all for me.
Yeah.
You know. And again, that comes down to, like, you know, trusting in the environment, you know, because I know that as soon as they come in, they're going to love it, man.
Yeah.
But you got some places where they might not gel, you know what I mean? Like I said, I've been to places before and it's not been my flavor, you know? So everyone's different. And then you'll find somewhere, you know? Find somewhere. You do that, then you'll decide, like, how many times a week you want to train, like how much time you got, you know? And you go from there.
It's my biggest thing right now. So I'm like, where can I fit?
Yeah,
where can I fit my other
and not just that
into?
though, but staying injury free.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, man. Don't be afraid to go up and train with a blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. You know, in theory, the colored belts, you're not going to get injured as much. But when you fight your compadre, you know what I mean? They're going to come in and like, I'm going to fuck you up this time. And you're like, dude, I watched this thing on YouTube. I'm going to choke you out in 2 seconds. And then something like, accidents are going to happen.
That's That's my favorite advice from Jeff Cavalier from Athlete X. I used to watch his videos loads of time. And he would always say, look, it's all well and good improving at such a rapid rate if you're training for 3 months. But if you then have to stop training for 6 months because you injured yourself like a dick, you've really achieved nothing. So staying injury free is definitely playing the steadier game. That's just like an instant gratification thing, isn't it? Like sometimes you want to win the fight because then you won the fight and then that's great. But if it means you now can't fight again for 6 months, was it really worth it?
I've had some serious injuries, man. Like, so I'm always like very cautious of like good training, quality over quantity, you know, because like if you stay in the gym, like I stay in the gym all day long, you know, so it's like, right, I got the quantity, you know, I need the quality training, you know, and that's super important, like to build your team up to a level where I don't need to travel so far, you know what I mean, to go and train. Obviously, I'll always go and train with my professor up in London, you know, but like, I shouldn't need to go other places too much, you know what I mean, to go and get it. But it's like I take that back. It's always good to travel, you know, because you'll learn different things from other places as well. But bring it back to the gym, you know, I've always got an open door policy. Anyone can train anywhere, you know, and you always ask that as well, because some places don't. They don't let you train everywhere. And they get funny with you. And you don't understand that. You don't know why. It's just like, why can't I train here? You know, but for me personally, in my opinion, you pay me a membership, you know, who am I to say that you can train anywhere? You know, so it's like, although you still pay me the membership, oh, Ian, you know, I still train with you though, you know, I still want to get graded under you, I still want to train with you, but there's another gym down the road there as well that I like to do on a Sunday or whatever and just mess around with my mate, you know, of course, bro, like, there's no problem with that there, you know.
It's also the transfer of skills, isn't it? Like you're bringing different things. Everyone's going to win if you do that.
I've got another guy that travels all the way to Wales and stuff like that, trains with lots of Welsh dudes up, and then it's like, cool, man, what'd you learn?
Yeah.
You know, I want to know. Yeah. And it's having that open mind, open door as well for your gym. And that's something that we promote.
What's the worst injury you picked up or have seen in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? In competition or training?
Oh man, just knee snapping. Like, yeah. In competition, I've seen, like, knee snapping, you know what I mean? Like, just breaking. I remember watching the Europeans and I was like, I think it might have been 2012. And I was just like, you could jump guard a lot more then. I mean, like, just throwing yourself at your opponent and them catching you. So that's jumping guard. And that was every belt. And even a white belt, but they stopped it now. It's blue belt now, you can do it. But I remember seeing it. I remember looking at the mats once, and it was just like literally broken leg. Because of like, it was just all different angles and all different scenarios as such. Yeah. But literally like three legs are just like
That's
getting
savage.
mangled all at the same time. But it was a high level. It's the Europeans, man. Like,
Yeah. So
you go in there to fight, you know.
people
what I mean?
in there,
It happens.
Yeah, it happens, you know. But yeah, for me though, I like broke my ankle. I've like tore my meniscus. I've had nerve damage. I think nerve damage is the worst because I lost all my muscle structure on my this side of my body.
That's brutal.
That was pretty bad. I still can't really feel my index finger that much. You know, that's numb. And just trying to keep yourself like supple. You know what I mean? That's the biggest advice.
So how do you guys combat that? I mean, I guess that's you were going to go into answering it there, but how do you guys combat that at the gym to make sure that people don't pick up those kind of injuries here?
Man, train smart.
Yeah.
Always train smart. Yeah. Like, but sometimes, you know, like you're in a combative situation, you know what I mean? It's easier said than done. Communication, though, is always key, you know, with your training partners and so forth. It really is. And like, oh, dude, I got a bad arm. Don't do this, you know, back to the thing. But if you're lenient with them, they're going to be lenient with you. And you're both going to get a good workout that day. But if you're too banged up, man, don't come to the gym. You know, don't spar, just drill. You know, don't put yourself in that situation because some guys would just be like, I don't want to roll you then because I don't want to be that person that slaps on a footlock just because I'm in the moment. Yeah. You know, or I attack your other leg, put pressure on your bad leg, you know, because all your weight's there and I'm trying to rip off the other ankle, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's knowing yourself as well. Yeah.
I feel like the people with the right attitude to that would be like, okay, so you've got an injured left leg, okay, it's almost like a game, isn't it? It's like a challenge mode. Yeah. Let me take this person down without touching the left leg.
Yeah.
And that way you're helping them to stay, you know, recover from their injuries.
Yeah.
But equally, you're also improving your techniques elsewhere because the more vividly you can see situations, the better you can play the game, you know?
Yeah, and that's when it becomes like, like you're doing something that's potentially that you weren't going to do that day. Okay, I'm just going to try and get to your back then. That's all I'm going to try and do, you know. And you know, if I can't touch your leg, I'm going to get to your back. And you play that kind of game with yourself, like you're saying. You know, I think that'd be best.
Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast,
amazing, man.
So good.
Feel free to shout out anything you want to shout out the club and where people can find you, where people can join up.
Our gym is BJJ Plymouth on Instagram, at BJJ Plymouth, or Checkmate Plymouth on social media. We got a website. Pretty sure that's Checkmate Plymouth as well. Because we just had Ocean BJJ as well added to it. But yeah, come down. Always welcome. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good podcast,
Thanks
brother.
so much.
Thanks, man. Most appreciated. Another one in the bag.
Another one in the bag.
Thank you for listening to the Two Beast podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this podcast on whatever your preferred platform is. We'll see you next time. All the best.